Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Glen Alex. She is on a mission to help others be joyful, connected, confident, and complete the life experience she calls wealth, which is health plus other riches. She is a clinical social worker. She is an author of Living Boundaries and Living in Total Health. So we'll learn from her how poor boundaries impact mental health and why are boundaries more than just saying no and much more. So we'll talk about all this and more. Welcome to the show, Glenn.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Glenn. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about healthy boundaries and much more around this. But before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Okay. Do you want me to share about me?
Yeah, a bit about you so that the audience knows better than what I have already told them about you.
Okay. Well, I am the youngest of 10 kids, seven girls and three boys. And growing up, we had a very social home, lots of parties, family and friends over. And that was my first introduction to boundaries. Even though I didn't intellectually know what boundaries were at the time, I could see when boundaries were crossed and when boundaries were respected by the smiles on people's faces, their cringes when they pulled back, when they stepped forward. And so that just informed me that there was a way of interacting on a human level that was respectful of self and others. And that set the foundation of my belief that when we are healthy on an individual level, then we can create a healthy collective. And we don't run into people who need to impose their egos on others and oppress and applies any ism to other people. So my journey from there just expanded to other areas of health, and I really love helping people. I love seeing people grow and develop into their uniqueness and to develop and share their unique innate talents with everyone else. So that is the foundation of my work, of who I am, and I do practice what I preach. So everything that I share and teach with clients and in my books, I do myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Glenn. So we see some people are able to, create boundaries and it comes very naturally to them. Whereas some people, are find it so difficult to have boundaries. They don't know what these things are, how to implement it. It looks like such a big barrier that they are trying to create. Why is it so, Glenn, that some people can very naturally do it? It looks like it has been with them forever. Some people, and find it so difficult. Help us understand this part of our psychology, our personality.
Well, it varies according to one's mindset, to one's foundational beliefs about how life works and how they fit into that. For people who have, that I come across, who have the most difficulty setting boundaries are what we call people pleasers. Some people might call them codependent. These individuals have difficulty saying no, even when they know saying yes is too much, they over yes. And um, they just pile their plate on to the point where they become extremely anxious or depressed because they can't possibly fulfill every yes, yet they won't say no or not now or I can't at this moment, maybe later. I can do it for an hour, not for 3 days. Instead of saying those things, um, th- they will say yes because they fear the other person being angry with them, the other person disapproving of them, the other person withholding love and respect and even food or shelter. So people pleasers tend to be the ones that have the most difficulty, in my experience, who have trouble saying no, and that's based on their mindset of how life works and how they fit into that.
Absolutely, absolutely. In See, in many cultures, people are having close knit relationships, and they are very cohesive. In those societies, it may be difficult to say no or create those boundaries. But in the Western society, especially in that part of the world where people are more individualistic, things are much more clearer. It's still difficult to understand why people are still not able to create healthy boundaries. Just because they might not want to offend people, but then from both sides, either from the somebody who is enforcing their healthy boundaries, and even from the other side, they will respect those boundaries in that sense because it is very much part of that growing up, understanding and learning. Why is it not happening there in that part of the world?
If I understand your question, in this part of the world, the Western part, we have trouble setting and respecting boundaries. Is that your question?
No, they should be happening much more naturally because people are individualistic much more than this part of the world, and
Okay.
boundary setting is very much normal. From the very beginning that this is my thing, this is my room, this is my time. Those things are much more natural in that part of the world. That is why I want to understand why it doesn't happen the way it naturally happens in the day-to-day life down there.
Let me first of all say that purely individualistic mindset is not always healthy in and of itself either. We are social creatures, and there is an element of humanity that requires socialization, and that means some level of conformity to the group dynamic, to the group culture, whatever that looks like, to survive and to even thrive. So I'm not for someone who is purely individualistic. This is mine. This is me. This is it. And there's no movement there. There's no variance. That um, is more like having walls and not boundaries. Walls keep harm out. Yes, they keep harm out, yet they keep you from expressing and sharing your authentic love and your authentic innate gifts and talents. So there needs to be a balance between the cultural, the group dynamic, and what's good for that individual. I think what's good about other cultures is in the group dynamic, there is a significant amount of sharing of authentic giving and give and take. Sometimes that individualistic mindset again is a wall, and boundaries, healthy boundaries, are contextual. They're not solid across the board. They vary depending on who the person is, what the situation is, how long the situation will last. And so to just have blanket across the board boundaries for me is problematic. So I think we are missing the balance of the individual, what's good for the person, and what helps make the collective healthy as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, Glenn. So, to understand it better, what is the importance of healthy boundaries? And what are healthy boundaries if we have to understand? You talk about that the healthy boundaries are just not just about saying no, it's much more beyond that.
Yes. Yes, boundaries go far more deeply than just saying no. Again, boundaries are contextual, so it may be no today, it may be not now tomorrow, it may be maybe later, the next week. So it's not a no across the board. Also, particularly for people who are just starting to set healthy boundaries in their lives, just saying no is not enough because that saying no newly tends to generate pushback. because human beings are used to, they want what they want when we want it. And when we're told no, we are going to push that limit. We're going to attempt to change the other person's mind. So if I'm just of the mind that all I have to do is say no and the other person will comply, then I set myself up for failure and disappointment and maybe some anxiety around saying no the next time. Saying no is important. It's also important to not put yourself in the position of having to say yes or having to say no. And that requires managing your boundaries long before you get to that point. So even if you do find yourself in a position of having to say yes or having to say no, the word no itself is not enough. Effective communication requires other elements than just the verbalization of that utterance. So it requires behaving your boundaries, not just saying no. So when you get that pushback, you carry yourself in such a way, your actions communicate no as well. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Carry on, carry on.
So the best example I have of behaving your boundaries, which in Living Boundaries, I talk about 5 truths about boundaries. These are these unchanging characteristics that apply to all boundaries for everyone in my mind. And boundary number 4 is no is not enough. And the best example I have of that is during the Me Too movement, an actress came out and said she met with, that Hollywood producer who was accused of raping actresses. And she met with him to discuss a part. He made sexual advances. She said no. He made more sexual advances. She said no. More advances. She said no again. So finally, she stopped saying no, and she literally got up and walked out of the room. So she behaved her no with her action instead of sitting there repeating herself and hoping he would comply and ultimately get it. Well, it took another level of communication to get that across to him that she wasn't interested.
Absolutely, absolutely. People say you say no with very calm confidence. Why do we need to emphasize so much with your also behavior? How do you calibrate both these parts of calmness as well as showing in your actions?
The, it's having the calmness in your actions um, speaks to uh, understanding that you are making the best decisions for yourself, that a lot of people like to think of right and wrong, just right decisions, wrong decisions. Sometimes there's a little gray area where it's only the best decision. And people who are highly anxious tend to look for a yes to every aspect of a question when I don't think that's possible, because a yes to one thing is also a no to something else. So if I say yes to you asking me to volunteer tomorrow when I already have a full load, I'm saying no to my peace of mind. I'm saying no to my existing clients. So also, every no to one thing is a yes to something else. So anxiety wants, it tricks people into believing that they must figure out how to say yes to every aspect of that situation or question. And staying calm in your actions and your responses requires a level of understanding and acceptance that there will be a no to some part of it, and some people may not like it. Some people may not be comfortable with it, and some people may still push back on it. Yet, having that understanding allows you to endure uh, the stress that comes from their pushback, their disappointment, their disapproval, their cold shoulder, them shutting you out, and that kind of thing. So it's about understanding that you're making the best decision for you, and that can help carry you through the difficulty of dealing with other people in that regard.
Absolutely. Your book, Living Boundaries and Living Total Health. Who is this book for?
This book is for adults. Both books are for adults, male, female, and those with non-conforming gender identities, who are experiencing anxiety, depression, relationship issues, difficulty grieving, burnout, work stress. This is because those issues tend to show up in anxiety and depressive disorders, and that is the client base that I work with. So if you people understand that health, total health, is the complete picture, it's the balance between the each of our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual selves. And by spiritual, I don't mean religious. I mean connection by spirituality. That's total health. And if we are imbalanced in any one of those elements, it could trigger anxiety or depression or stress. And living boundaries is also for all genders because we are all responsible for the collective. And we all have a part to play in being individually healthy and as sound as we can ourselves. And that will attract other people on the same level with the same goals. And that just will solidify how great and loving and safe we can make humanity.
Absolutely. So, how does a life full of boundaries look like? You lose all your friends, you lose a lot of people around you, and you have a lot of silence and calmness and perhaps peace. Uh, is that the life that one can look for, or will still have friends around us even with healthy boundaries?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I have my inner circle are just a group of people who are authentic and genuine with me. They will be honest with me. They will be supportive of me. They will ask questions. They'll give advice and share their insights. So it's a give and take. So having boundaries doesn't keep people out. It allows you to select who you let in. And my favorite metaphor for healthy boundaries and the contextual nature of boundaries is a theater. So I am on stage, I'm the center of attention. I decide who is in the front row. That's my inner circle. These are the people who know me the best, who are my confidants, and who I go to when I need help. And then further in the orchestra section is people who are close to me, though further removed than my inner circle, and the mezzanine level, the balcony, and so on and so forth, to the lobby, to the outside where the box office is. So you boundaries allow you to determine what you expose yourself to, who you expose yourself to, and for how long. So, an example of the contextual nature of boundaries is, Ajay, if you and I hung out and we laughed about goofy things and we called each other colorful names, in good humor, that would be appropriate in a social setting. It would not be appropriate in a business meeting. So, boundaries are contextual. The person on stage is the determining factor of who sits where and who's even allowed in the theater. So you can have this whole group of people and social system, support system, is just being conscious about who you allow in your space and for how long and under what circumstances.
Absolutely, absolutely. Glenn, there is so much to learn about all this, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more from you, also learn from your book. What's the best way for them to do so?
The best way is to visit my website, glenalex.com. That's GLENAEALEX.com, glenalex.com. They can message me through the website. They can order my book. I do have a Mother's Day special on there, and I offer specials from time to time. I have free downloads. So visiting my website is the best way to communicate with me.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.